Now, this next clip is Dr. Ben Carson. And this guy, if, God forbid, he were ever elected president, I fear for everybody. And I'm just going to let the clips play for themselves.
Pick up on that with you. Governor Kasich likes to say he knows how to land the plane. You've landed a lot of planes in the OR. But what about the idea of running for president with no experience in government at all?
Well, I will gladly confess that I'm the only one on this stage with no political title. You're not going to hear a lot of polished political speech from me, but you will hear the truth. And I don't think you have to be a politician to tell the truth. In fact, sometimes it's not that way around. And I've had more 2 a.m. phone calls than everybody here put together, making life and death decisions, put together very complex teams to accomplish things that have never been done before. And we are in a situation right now in our country that we have never been in before. We need people who think out of the box and can solve problems, can utilize the resources around them, very smart people, to focus on the problem and solve the problem. The American people are terrified. That's why we have this abnormal situation going on right now. We don't need more of the same solutions. We need different solutions to solve the problems and to save our nation.
Yeah, but you got to have some kind of knowledge, and you have to be able to learn different things. And he's shown a proclivity of not being able to grasp concepts, and in particular military concepts, or even how to pronounce Hamas. But I'm going to jump to the next clip. Here's the next clip on Carson, how he addresses a female Muslim about living and participating in the country.
Dr. Carson, this week a female Muslim who served in the U.S. Air Force asked Hillary Clinton the question. She asked whether the United States is still the best place in which to raise her 3 Muslim children, given what she perceives as a rise in Islamophobia in this country. Do you think that the GOP messaging on Muslims has stoked the flames of bias on this, as the Democrats suggest? And how would you answer this veteran?
Well, I don't know about the GOP messaging, but I can tell you about my messaging. You know, we need to stop allowing political correctness to dictate our policies, because it's going to kill us if we don't. And, you know, in the Holy Land Foundation trial in 2006 in Texas, you know, they had a memorandum, an explanatory memorandum, that talked about the fact that Americans would be easy to overcome and to commit civilization jihad because they were going to be trying to protect the rights of the very people who were trying to subvert them. But, you know, I believe in a Teddy Roosevelt philosophy. Teddy Roosevelt said, we are a nation of immigrants. As such, everybody is welcome from any race, any country, any religion, if they want to be Americans, if they want to accept our values and our laws. If not, they can stay where they are.
So he didn't answer the question. The lady who's a Muslim and a U.S. citizen was speaking about the rise of Islamophobia and how it affects her being a U.S. citizen. So again, Carson, you know, he really falls short. So anyway, let's jump to the next clip.
Get to a YouTube question. This is a question from a YouTube creator with over 2 million subscribers. Watch.
I'm Dulce Candy, a YouTube creator who immigrated to the United States from Mexico when I was a little girl. Since then, I am proud to say that I served in the armed forces in Iraq, became a citizen, and I am now an entrepreneur. There are many immigrants who contribute positively to the American economy, but some of the comments in the campaign make us question our place in this country. If America does not seem like a welcoming place for immigrant entrepreneurs, will the American economy suffer?
Dr. Carson, that one's for you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, as I said before, we are a land of immigrants, but we have to be intelligent about the way that we form our immigration policies. And that's one of the reasons that I have called on us to declare war on the Islamic State, because we need to reorient our immigration policies and our visa policies for people who are coming into this country, because there are many people out there who want to destroy us. Now, I recognize that the vast majority of people coming in here probably are not those kinds of people, but that's not good enough. If you've got 10 people coming to your house and you know one of them is a terrorist, you're probably going to keep them all out. You know, we probably have to figure out a way to make sure that we keep America safe.
He never answered the lady's question and jumped right back to ISIS, and everybody wants to keep America safe. So I guess he agrees with Trump that you keep everybody out because one person might be a terrorist. Anyway, Carson just drives me wild. Let me jump to the next clip. Now, Carson had gotten a pass on foreign policy pretty much up to this point, and here's where he basically shows, in my opinion, his ignorance as far as dealing with foreign leaders.
Broadly. Dr. Carson, many experts believe Russian leader Vladimir Putin has greater ideas, bigger designs for the region beyond Russia's actions inside Ukraine. Fast forward to February 2017, and it is President Carson and Russian ununiformed commandos cross the Estonian border, and they occupy a city in Estonia. Estonia, a member of NATO, essentially invokes Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. What do you do?
Well, first of all, recognize that Vladimir Putin is an opportunist, and he's a bully, and we have to face him down. And I would, first of all, face him down in that whole region, the whole Baltic region. I think we need to put in some armored brigades there. We only have one or two. We need much more than that. We need to be doing military exercises in not only Estonia, but Latvia and Lithuania. They're terrified by the saber rattling. I think we ought to put in our missile defense system. I think we ought to give Ukraine offensive weapons. And I think we ought to fight them on the economic basis, because Putin is a one-horse country, oil and energy. And we ought to fight them on that level. We ought to be helping in terms of the technology for fracking, keeping the price low, quite frankly, because that's what's keeping him contained. So yes, I absolutely would go in if he attacked. I think on Article 5 of NATO, we would definitely protect all of our allies.
Gentlemen, you've all...
Now, what he's talking about is a major escalation of military forces in the Baltic region. Now, if that were done to the United States, let's say Canada was not an ally, and all of a sudden they put a ton of troops and missiles and etc. on the U.S.-Canadian border. What the hell would we do other than now we're going to rush a whole bunch of troops and missiles, etc. to the U.S.-Canadian border? So that is a massive escalation. Now, okay, in truth, if Russia did, in fact, attempt to invade Estonia, and they did basically invoke that act as far as the request for assistance, the NATO request for assistance, yeah, we would have to go in there. But again, I don't think Russia would be stupid enough to try to pull that. And the only reason they got away with it in the Ukraine was because the Ukraine were not members of NATO. If they had been, and he had tried to pull that, there would be no way that we wouldn't have gone in there and just kicked them out. So anyway, okay, I'm going to basically jump to the last clip. Okay, this is the last clip, and they gave Carson a quasi-softball question to try to help him out with the people in Iowa, and it has to do with subsidies on ethanol.
Dr. Carson, I'd like to ask you about exactly that issue. Where are you on the mandatory ethanol standard? And precisely this question, should government be in the business of picking winners and losers, or should it be left to the marketplace?
Well, as anyone knows who's been listening to me, you know, I'm very much against the government being involved in every aspect of our lives. You know, last year there was an additional 81,000 pages of government regulations. If you stack that up, it would be a 3-story building. This is absolutely absurd. And they've insinuated themselves into everything. Now, as far as the renewable fuel standard is concerned, certain promises were made, certain government contracts were issued, which extend all the way into the year 2022. And I believe that it's probably unfair to withdraw the rug because people have invested money, people have invested a lot of energy into that. But you know, we are blessed with tremendous energy in this nation, and we need to be talking about new sources of energy. 70% of our population lives bi-coastally. What about hydroelectric power? We can develop that. You know, we have so much natural gas now, and we can liquefy it, and we can transfer it across the seas. We can make Europe dependent on us instead of putting them back in this little box where it belongs. Those are the kinds of things that we ought to be doing, and, you know, take advantage of the tremendous opportunities in energy that God has given us, not get involved in these little petty arguments, and we can get a lot of them out if we get the government out of our lives.
All right, he answered the question. He basically said that we should maintain the subsidies on existing contracts, but then he started rambling about a bunch of other stuff, and then he came back to the get the government out of our lives. So, you know, it is what it is. So, I mean, honestly, this guy kind of scares me because he really does a lot of talking, but there's not a tremendous amount of actual knowledge or wisdom behind the statements that he makes, and he falls back on getting smart people in place, which is true. You need to get smart people in place, but you need to have a basic understanding of what you're talking about and the information that you're getting. Otherwise, you're basically depending on other people to make the decision, and you're just rubber stamping it. So I'm going to end the Carson segment here, and the next segment will be on Jeb Bush.